My name is Malik Kabazda. Welcome to UPfront. On UPfront, we get up close with those who make all the news. On today's edition of UPfront, we are going to deal with an important subject, that is the Youth Employment Agency. Is this an agency designed to create opportunities, job opportunities, that is, for the teeming youth of Ghana? Or this is simply a political tool designed to foster the interests of the politician? When we come back from the break, I will introduce to you someone who has all the answers. In fact, let's go to him. My guest is the board chairman of the Youth Employment Agency, YEA. I'm talking about Mr. Sammy. I was going to say Sammy Awuku too. Sammy Awuku. Yes, I know he's your friend. Sammy, welcome to UPfront.
Thank you very much, Malik.
You are the board chairman of, good to see you. You are the board chairman of YEA. Your appointment was not without controversy. Are you qualified by the law that establishes the YEA to be a board chairman?
First of all, let me say a very good evening to your cherished viewers. And let me also thank His Excellency, the President of our country, Nana Akufo-Addo, for reposing so much confidence in me to lead a very sensitive agency that is at the heart of government's effort to create jobs for the teeming unemployed youth. And I am convinced that the President, in consultation with the Council of State, did not err and did not get it wrong in appointing this young man called Sammy Awuku.
Why do you think
to be the board chairman for the YEA?
Because the law is clear and specific.
Well, I don't know how clear. You know, I listened to that whole debate when it was raging, and I was even urged to speak up on the matter. But I'm so confident that the President will not get it wrong when it has to do with getting somebody who is also very competent to manage. Let's go to what the law states. That the governing council of the YEA.
And you are quoting subsection 4.
Yeah, that's Act 887
yes.
of the Youth Employment Agency Act.
Quoting section 4.
Section 4(1)(a). That a person of recognized standing and experience in administration and human resource development or training as chairperson. First of all, I have a background from the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA, as a student and also as a public administration person. I studied public admin there. And if you also go to the Ghana Institute of Journalism... You
may have studied it,
well,
let me recognize
but let me come to it. You've asked the question. I also do have a background from the Ghana Institute of Journalism in PR, in advertising and marketing. I'm also a graduate of the University of London law program. And again, as we speak, I'm also in my final year studying international relations at the Center for Global Politics at the Freie University of Berlin. Again, at the international front, I've 3 times vice chairperson of the International Young Democrats Union, where the human resource and also managing people consistently for the past 3 years. I won my elections in London, won my 2nd term in Brazil against all odds, and won my 3rd term in Miami, even in absentia. So it shows the level of confidence that even at the global level, my colleagues have in me. And this is managing over 126 center-right political parties across the world, including that of the Republican Youth Federation, that of the Conservative Youth, that of the CDU, the ruling party in Germany, that of the Brazilian, the parties there, parties from the Democratic Union of Africa. That is side
what's the
of the
relevance
politics of
of that
I'm talking about managing human beings. Because, of course, the people you're also going to manage at the highest level of human management. If anybody wants to doubt it, try to get into political party activism. Anybody who has been there, manage the expectations and people. And again, I led the youth of our country, sway them to one side to vote heavily for change. Against a time.
Just taking credit for something you can't take credit for.
Well, I don't know what you mean by that. But on the street today, on the street today, if you ask 5 out of 5 youth of our country, I'm sure 4 out of 5 will tell you they've heard of the name Sammy Awuku. Oh, that's NPP youth leader. At least I'm credited with some kind of vibrancy, some kind of enthusiasm that I injected into the NPP's youth campaign.
And some say you're just a hothead.
Well, I'm not too sure about that, but I'm a courageous, principled person. I hate it when you are cheating somebody. But as we speak, whether the president will be vindicated or not, it will depend on how I fare as board chairman for the YEA. I love it when, you know, I'm appointed or I'm up or elected against controversies. I love it when the expectations are high. And I love it too when people feel that he cannot do it. I quite remember when I wanted to be National Youth Organizer of the NPP. I contested against 6 opponents. The major campaign against me was that I'll be a radio youth leader. I'll be a TV youth leader. He won't be a grassroots person. Lo and behold, many people credit me as one of NPP's favorite youth leaders of all times. And I'm sure, Malik, you also agree with me on that.
This one, it's not for me to, it's not for me to proffer an opinion.
Nonetheless, it's also about advocacy. And where the president decided to also put me has to do with making issues of youth unemployment very topical and at the center of our national debate. You know, in the early 90s to mid-90s, there was this whole clamor and the considerable level of agitation by proponents of Educate the Girl Child movement, led by Her Excellency, the former First Lady, Nana Akufo-Addo Rawlings, Madam Christine Churcher, if you remember, yes. Madam Gladys Asma, Madam Sherry Aite, and all those people to help educate the girl child. That was a movement that caught up with all of us. But people forget that the girl child is part of the bigger picture of the youth movement. But when it comes to the girl child, there's a soft spot in all of us saying, look, we need to help take care or resolve this imbalance. But when it comes to youth unemployment and issues confronting the youth, you know, the approach to it is lackadaisical.
So let's talk about the YEA.
That's why I am happy that the president did not appoint no meaner person than a youth leader who has also seen it all at the international level and at the local level and understands the psyche of the youth.
What do you say to those who say this is just a reward for what you just said you did for the party, which also brought
Well, if it was
into
a
power?
reward, the president has the right to also appoint people, whether in a reward system or making sure that people perform. But for me, if it will just be a reward or not, time will tell.
What does the YEA do?
First of all,
why should anybody be bothered about the YEA?
Well, first of all, the Youth Employment Agency, let me also take you to its historical antecedent. The NPP had a National Youth Employment Program, the NYEP. That was that time of Nana Akufo-Addo being in charge of the Ministry for Employment.
2005, 2006.
Exactly. And then, unfortunately, the NPP exited power without an ally to back the proper sources of funding for the YEA. The NDC came into office and they changed the name to JIDA. And I'm sure thanks to the multimedia network and your good job, yourself, that of Manasseh Azuri and all that, uncovered deafening and serious rot that had become endemic in the JIDA setup, leading for Parliament to take a very serious view at what this whole JIDA thing is and how we can properly tie the noose around its neck. And then Parliament also came up with this YEA Act 887, which was passed in 2015. The YEA also has its own ally backing it. That's the Youth Employment Agency Regulation 2016, LI 2231. And for the purposes of our argument, the YEA, for the purpose of achieving the objective of the agency, according to the LI, the agency may develop and implement programs and employment modules for youth employment and career development. And it shall also implement the following programs and employment modules. One, that's Youth in Community Improvement Program. That is Youth in Agriculture and Afforestation module. That is Youth in Sanitation and Coastal Sanitation module. That's Youth in Trades and Vocations module. That is Youth in Information Communication Technology. Youth in Community Service and Security module. Community and Health Assistant module. Apparel and Textile module, Community Teaching module, Industrial Attachment module, Youth in Entrepreneurship module, and then Out of School Adolescent Training module. All these modules, which about 12 in all, for what is enshrined in this LI, gives us a framework on what to also develop our programs within. However, it shall not be limited to only these programs because,
yes, you finish.
Yes, because as time changes and evolves, the dynamics and operations of the YEA must also change to cater for the needs of the society. Because as we speak, one area that we also need to take very critically, and that people will also agree with me, that we haven't paid much attention to will be youth in apparel and textile module. Because of Ghana's trade relations with the sub-region, with AGOA, and all this big market. We haven't taken much advantage in getting our youth into these areas.
But the cotton industry is failing, the textile industry is failing. We have allowed the importation of fake pirated textiles.
If the YEA had also cashed in on this particular module and this area, would have trained many more of our people to go into this entrepreneurship stuff, get themselves trained in this skilled labor, so that they can also help produce and not always for us to import print. Because I look forward to the YEA properly positioning itself to getting a very big textile village for us to be able to sew for even our security agencies. Because it's big. For instance, the YEA as we speak, we have youth in community protection and policing that we recently launched. And by weekend, they should be going to the camps to start training with the Ghana Police Service. That alone is about 15,000 people we're looking at. We don't have to import the print. We should be moving towards a situation. Our youth garment village should be able to help sew and cater for these 15,000 people. Youth in community health.
Are these not the kinds of populist ideas that we generate? Yeah. And in the end, they do not yield the results that we envisage? Because the GEDA, the Ghana Youth Employment and Entrepreneurial Development Agency, which preceded the YEA, was set up to do exactly that. Well, computer training, crafts and whatever.
I don't have any act governing GEDA, but I have act governing the YEA. And so I can speak to the YEA Act.
But the political intentions were clear.
Well, but this time around is properly enshrined in an act. So maybe you can move on beyond the political talk of what existed in the past. And then we can look at how we can properly operationalize the spirit and letter of the LI and that of the Act. Let me also pay glowing tribute to the former board and management of the YEA. It's also through their effort that we have the YEA Act. Let me also thank the former Minister for Employment at that time, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, the Honorable Obi Amwa, who was also part of the committee, the Honorable Dr. Matopoku Prempe, and the majority leader currently, for the good job they did with this YEA Act.
Is this not tokenism? An act?
Why?
That somebody deserves commendation for merely passing an act.
Because
this act was passed in 2015.
This act was after the nightmarish experience of GEDA.
Presided over by the same people who passed the act.
Well, but not presided over Parliament. Was at that time was purely an executive control over GEDA.
Yes, but the act was passed because the executive took it to Parliament.
Well, but the act was passed also because they had cooperation from Parliament. And at that time, the whole nation said it's about time that we halt the endemic corruption that had engulfed the entire GEDA
But they set up, the politicians set up an institution. You watch the institution to fail, and then you go to Parliament and go and pass a law and pretend that that is the solution. Is that a sustainable solution?
Well, if that is not even a solution in itself, it gives us the guidelines towards finding a lasting solution. And when you go against the act, you're also liable to prosecution. And that is why it is important you have a governing act and something that ties the hands of people who will be corrupt or who intends to be corrupt in working within the YEA system. However, apart from the yeoman job that the previous job played, when we came into office, let me now zone into our administration. So
before your administration,
that's fine.
This act was passed in 2015.
Exactly.
Right. So,
and the LI in 2016.
So within that period,
yes,
up until your government took it over,
yes,
what would you say was the major achievement of the YEA?
Well, first of all, I also think because they only operationalized this act for 2 years or less, they might not have achieved too much success, but they did well in starting some of these programs and modules. Some of them, for me now, we want to do realignment of it.
What did they start?
Well, they had the youth in sanitation module, which also existed.
But
and
this
YEA,
predated, yes.
And then they also had the youth in community service and security module. What we have decided to do is also liaise with the SDG and the Sustainable Development Goals, and then the Columbia Earth Institute in the US in this 1 million health workers crusade, where currently just about some few weeks ago, we accompanied the president to also receive about 5,000 to 6,000 mobile phones to help aid mobile healthcare delivery, where we train healthcare assistants into the villages. We have a call center together with the Ghana Health Service, where when our people are on the field, they face difficulties about health-related questions, they quickly know who to call at the center.
Who presented these phones to them?
It was by Jeffrey Sachs. And also
how many again?
I think about 5,000 to 6,000. And the Ghana Health Service, together with Dr. Nsiasari and the 1 million health workers crusade, and backed upon by the Columbia Health Institute. This was just somewhere last month. And so the Ghana Health Service now have these mobile phones which have properly been designed to help aid healthcare in the rural communities.
When you took over
and then they also have just another one. One that we also came to meet is the Youth in Arabic module. For us, you know, we now want to do realignment, and we are in talks, and it's gone far with the Ministry for Zongo Development. The YEA doesn't have the capacity to even manage such a module. So when you have the ministry responsible for the Zongo development, because Arabic is mostly also taught in the Zongo communities, if you will agree. So instead of the YEA, you don't have the capacity and the managerial skill for it. The Ministry for Zongo Development are properly equipped. They have imams under them, they have sheikhs under them. They can properly even recruit, manage, and supervise even the teachings of this. So instead of us keeping it, we are liaising with them. Again, we want to, the issue of even youth in coastal sanitation. Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Sanitation. It's a joint venture.
Is this not another project for
no, we have it.
Has failed?
We have it.
Because I remember your friend Sammy Awuku,
yes,
when he was Deputy Information Minister, he championed, together with the government generally, this coastal sanitation. They called them Eco Brigade at the time, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
What happened? It fizzled out.
Well,
what did that achieve?
It's all about leadership and management. That is why I'm saying that if you leave it in the hands of just the YEA to manage it, you have problems. Because the Ministry of Tourism is also mandated to also help operate our tourist sites. Most of our tourist sites they have some linkages with the coastal areas. Most of our tourist sites, take the Cape Coast Castle, take the Elmina Castle, you have the Kakum National Park, you come down towards the Adan areas, and you have Mighty Beach, the Tema Zone, and all that. So where we believe that we need to work closely with the Ministry of Tourism, we do cost sharing. Instead of the YEA being the carrier of all the debt associated with employment, we can also share our burden. A load shared becomes lighter. Ministry of Sanitation, when it comes to training our people to properly also oversee the cleaning of our public areas, a ministry is also mandated to also supervise it. So we liaise with them. What YEA must do.
The YEA doesn't have anything to do.
YEA does, because the YEA per the Act is supposed to develop programs and modules that will also create employment for our youth. The ministries don't employ our youth. We are solely responsible to create programs and modules that also have more or less some sustainable lifespan to employ our teaming youth.
Because a lot of the modules that were created both under the Kufuor government and under the Mills Mahama government, none of them proved to be sustainable.
Well, we have reached a stage where everyone will keep saying, because we have failed in the past, we don't want to move on, or moving on to becomes perilous.
Then we have to admit that we failed.
Well, but we shouldn't allow the dark past to cloud the bright future.
But we have to admit that we failed.
Have
we admitted that we failed?
We failed in some of our mandates. We failed in some of our programs in the past. But we need to strengthen it. And that's why I'm saying the YEA should be looking at areas of competitive advantage. Areas where now, one good thing that the current management, with the board blessing them, they've embarked on is this youth in graduate internship. You and I agree that graduate unemployment is at an all-time high. Now there's an innovation there. whilst the agencies of state may be struggling to get even financial clearance sometimes to employ people, we say, okay, we have some funding for our youth we want to recruit and employ and graduate, HND, teachers, and all that. What we can do is we have an arrangement. For instance, we're having one with the Ghana Post now, where we are giving them graduates and we are paying them every month. Ghana Post company also tops up with a certain amount.
So that YEA is paying.
Yes. So it's a cost sharing. Yes. So that any time that you also get financial clearance to employ people, these people we have given you should be the first point of call in your employment, because one, you've trained them, they have the hands-on working experience, and it's very easy when you are taking them on board. We want to also open more of a private.
Can we stick with this for a bit?
No problem.
Are we doing this just because you want to create opportunity for people and make your party look good and your government look competent, at least perceived to be competent, or we sincerely believe that this will increase the productive capacity of the institutions to which we send them? I'm asking this because in the times past, when we have picked these people, in fact, the original NYEP was actually that after 2 years, the people ought to move.
It's still the same.
It's still the same.
Yes.
Are the institutions, are they capable of increasing the productive capacity of the institutions? So
well,
that
first
they
of
can
all,
be absorbed?
I think we are doing this for two reasons. The reasons you adduced. One, to make our government look competent as well. Because we went to the populace telling them that vote for us and we'll help create more job opportunities for our teeming youth. We cannot sit unconcerned when you have graduate unemployment at an all-time high.
What is the difference then with the previous one?
No.
Because that didn't solve the problem.
Well, but the previous one did not have these innovations. And secondly, they are also going to contribute to the productive capacities of these agencies of state.
How?
Why do I say so? We currently also in talks with the GRA. If it's about revenue mobilization,
Authority.
If it's about revenue mobilization and to increase the revenue capacity of our country, the more you have many people also going out there to see those who are not paying taxes to pay taxes, you're also increasing your revenue base. Maybe Ghana Revenue Authority had wanted to only employ, say, 150 people. If the YEA is able to complement the effort and say, okay, take 300 people because it can also support you with the payment of them. Maybe originally they had wanted to pay or pick 300 people, but they don't have the financial strength. Again, let me also take you to a place like National Health Insurance.
Sammy, again, is this not just a clever way of appearing to be doing something?
But government must be clever. The government that is not clever is not worth leading us.
Because the YEA does not have any manner or way of raking revenue.
YEA does, and let me go to it for you in
But
jiffy.
the YEA will largely depend on the state for its revenues. The YEA does not have any factory sitting somewhere which will help it generate revenue. So you are going to rely on the state, i.e. the government, for revenues, and yet you are saying the same government, when it comes to the GRA, doesn't have money. But the government can find the money and give to the YEA to now pretend to be sending people to GRA and helping it to pay.
Well, thanks to the previous parliament, they did pass this, that the sources of funds for the YEA should be one, monies approved by parliament for the agency. Two,
coming from the consolidated fund.
Correct. 80% of communication services tax. 10% of district assemblies common fund. 5% of the GET fund, and then donations, gifts, and grants. Where the YEA has not exploited.
From the last one, Sammy. Yes. All of the others you have talked
about. But Ghana is the only country. Let me also commend government, and let me commend even the previous administration for this. Ghana is the only country that we have secured and proper sources of funding to cater for youth unemployment. It's the only country. If you check the various regulations, the big countries, the smaller countries, the highly developed and the undeveloped countries. So meaning that we have taken a giant steps towards helping to bridge that gap between the employed and unemployed. But where we haven't exploited much is the issue of donations, gifts, and grants.
Absolutely.
The YEA should be able to also be innovative in getting the ILO to properly also support us in these areas. Donor-funded programs must also come on board. Because in any case, if government is broke, it will definitely affect its sources of funding. Because of GET Fund, because of DAC, BA statutory. Because we've had in the times past, when government is broke, it's broke. You can't pay statutory fund. But when you have your donations and gifts and grants, but how can the donations and gifts and grants come in? When the YEA looks credible. Because you and I agree, the YEA has had its fair share of troubles. And so at a point, it looked like an agency that became a conduit for people to siphon funds.
Has anything changed?
A lot has changed. And I'll tell you, since the new board took over, we've taken some drastic measures. At the 22nd September meeting of the board of the YEA, we made some far-reaching resolutions. And one of them includes that we suspended some provisions of the conditions of service. That talks about those from grade 8 to 13, where they were taking outrageous allowances and salaries. For instance, if you're a graduate at the entry level within the YEA setup, you're entitled to a car loan, entitled to rent allowance, clothing allowance, transportation allowance. Oh my goodness, even if it's a bank, it takes a while for you to even reach that. Number two, we also decided to suspend this provision because we believe allowances must go with the job you've been given to do. Because if you are working overtime, you deserve to be paid. But if you make it grade 8 to 13, maybe the driver who is supposed to work 8 to 5 stays with the boss, who is a regional director or director for operations or technical services, till 11 p.m. But that director for technical services is paid allowance.
The driver doesn't get it.
But the driver doesn't get it. Meanwhile, the driver has worked beyond his 8 to 5. So we believe that we need to review it so that it reflects across. And so you suspended payment of these kinds of allowances. Of these allowances. Then again, the board also decided out of good faith, since we suspended these provisions, for us to have a review of it, we decided to also suspend our certain allowances and directors' fees till further notice, till this document is comprehensively reviewed. It's just not for optics. Well, because the amount of money you sink... But it is saving the YEA. Again, we've also ordered management to do a head count, a staff audit. The YEA management has been ordered to do a staff audit, HR audit, so that we get to know the qualification and the entry qualification for each person that the YEA employed. And that will also help us to know whether that person's qualification goes with the kind of monies and salaries we are paying. Again, we also ask that all beneficiaries under our modules we are operating, including the famous sanitation module being operated by Zoomlion Ghana Limited, should also be audited. And the head count is underway by our monitors. Let me go back and also to check fraud, just a second. We've instituted a software where our monitors in all the district, 216 MMDAs, will ensure that anybody who comes to work clocks in. And when you clock in, let's say in Zabzugu, it reflects at the YEA head office on their system, so that we know that you worked maybe 4 times in a week or 5 times in a week or 2 times in a week, so that you don't pay somebody for working 5 times in a week when the person actually was at work twice in a week. So we are checking some of these financial... Let's go back to
one of the decisions, the resolutions that the board took in respect of staff.
Yes, sir.
This is a case which is in court.
Yes.
In respect of some staff.
Yes.
And yet you went to and the court took decisions.
Yes.
And by those decisions... The
fact that the case is in court
you are an LLB holder. Yeah. You did your Bachelor of Laws at the University of London. You ought to know
I hold a diploma in law from the University of London, so I have a fair idea of the law.
So you ought to know that this is a matter which you shouldn't do anything about, but your board went to take decisions that amount to overreach in the court.
I disagree with you.
If you are cited for contempt,
I disagree with that.
Are you sure that you will not be in difficulty? Let
me state, if you go to the YEA Act, Section 5, A, B, C, and D, for the purposes of this statement, the YEA Act, the board shall ensure the proper and effective performance of the functions of the agency, approve plans for the career development and sustenance of the youth employment, generally control the management of the agency on matters of policy, and formulate plans for the disbursement of funds of the... Let me take the first one. Ensure the proper and effective performance of the functions of the agency. If you check this conditions of service, which was not approved by us, was approved by the previous board of the YEA. And it states that no person... But
it's binding on you.
It is binding on us.
Yes.
We can only review sections of it, isn't it? You can only amend or review. The board can review or amend it at any time. We decided to hold some of the provisions in relation to allowances. But let me go to this same document that was handed over to us by the NDC administration, that no person shall be required to take additional responsibility of another position for a period of more than 6 months. After the 6 months, a suitable candidate should be appointed to fill the position. And in fact, it goes further to say that no person shall be entitled to hold another person's position for a period of more than a year. So when we came, the board said, okay, what we have to do is all those, in going by these conditions of service, all those who have been holding appointments or positions within the YEA and it's on acting capacity and it's been more than a year, because this is what the conditions of service says, that we revoked all those appointments. That cannot mean that because a case is in court, the board cannot function. Because a case is in court, all the provisions in the YEA Act should be suspended. And mind you, without the board, there cannot be an effective running of the agency. And so what we did was, first of all, to ratify some appointments. So why did the court
disagree with some of your decisions?
Because the court also said some decisions were taken when there was no board. And that is why it's important to have a board. When the board came, the board was also properly briefed on the situational report of the YEA.
Is the board trying to ratify some of those decisions?
The board has ratified appointments
of the But how do you ratify
a
decision which the court has frowned upon? Because it was taken at the time there was no board.
Well, but that is why we have gone back to the spirit and letter of this condition.
The court.
We haven't overreached the court, because this document says if it's a year, it should be revoked. Yes. And so that's why we have revoked those appointments.
But at the time that the decisions which are before the court,
but it is still not inconsistent with what we have done. It is still not inconsistent, because we are going also by the conditions of service and the YEA Act.
Yes, but by the time that your board was instituted,
yes,
decisions were taken when there was no board.
The board had choices. The board had choices to ratify, decline, or approve.
Yes, but by the time that the board was in place to take a decision, there was a matter in court.
And the board also chose, as a matter of priority and policy, as in the YEA Act, for the effective running of the organization. Because you cannot have a staff strength that you cannot pay. Because already they are in debt, several millions. They owe a company over 440 million cedis. That's over $100 million. We owe Zoomlion.
You don't believe that you are standing at the precipice of contempt?
I don't think so. And then where we believe that we have acted in good faith, and we also acted to save the agency from further debt. And again, my understanding of the ruling of the court was that, first of all, they said that we also did tell management that where you have also done some transfers, it must also be in consonance with public service regulations. So the board also did make that strongly. We have told management to take steps to also help make some compensations available where necessary, and liaise with the chief labor officer, who is also a member of the governing council of the YEA, to also help put together a better package for public services transfer. So the board took all these things into consideration. Mind you, this is a board that is made up of very distinguished personalities. The Deputy Minister for Employment, the Chief Labor Officer is on it. You also have management consultant.
It's a 9-member board.
Yes, you also have the YEA CEO himself. You have, Dr. Mwakutufo of old. And you also have a rep from the Ministry of Local Government. And so it's a very serious. You have the NYEA CEO as well on the board. So it's a very big board, a queen mother and a private developer. So this is a board that you cannot say you can take things and push through it without even scrutinizing it.
Let's deal with the youth and sanitation model, which does the Zoomlion one.
Yes.
You said Zoomlion is owed
over 440 million,
which is, in your estimations, about $100 million.
And this is an accumulation from, I think, 2006, from the Kufuor administration through the Mills administration through the Mahama administration.
How many are...
Zoomlion tells us he has 45,000 employees.
Zoomlion tells you?
Yes.
You don't know?
We don't know because we never had the data. So what we have decided to do, the board has ordered management to do a head count.
Does that make sense to you?
I don't speculate. I deal with figures.
Zoomlion
yes.
benefits from the number of people who are paid under the model.
That's correct.
You are the one paying. You don't know how many people there are.
The why you never had the data.
The beneficiary is the one who is telling you how many people
that is
there
why,
are. That's why I'm asking whether it makes sense.
Well, personally, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that I'm paying you
why
for a job.
Why have we allowed this to persist over these years?
Maybe, you know, every businessman will take advantage of the system.
If it doesn't make sense, how do we then know that this amount that Zoomlion says we owe, we actually owe?
That is a matter of law. But the point is that the previous administration did consent to it as a government. So
the previous administration did not consent to it. Because I do know that the minister at the time, Haruna Idrisu, actually raised a memo requesting that payment be made. The finance minister at the time disagreed and asked the Auditor General to conduct an audit into this. The Auditor General said there was no evidence of work done and therefore it couldn't order payment.
The Auditor General wrote to the YEA management. The YEA management also responded that since it was DACF that was paying
District Assembly Common Fund,
because in the previous administration, Zoomlion was dealing directly with the DACF, even though the YEA is the employer of Zoomlion. Let's get it clear. The YEA is the employer of Zoomlion. Because we have our module, our program, Youth in Sanitation. So we are supposed to pay you at the end of the month. But Zoomlion had its own arrangement with the DACF. So DACF was paying Zoomlion directly. So YEA did not even have a yes or no vote when it comes to pay or don't pay. But the board, this board has said that no, henceforth, before you make any payment, the YEA must consent with that you have worked and you're entitled to this pay. From this day of our Lord going forward. This is one of the bold decisions that the board has taken. And I think
District Assembly Common Fund, did they produce any documents?
I wasn't there during the previous administration. I can only speak for the current.
Did the Auditor General find any?
The Auditor General, my understanding is that he did not find when he wrote to the YEA. But I am not in the position to know when they wrote to the DACF, whether the DACF was able to produce data.
But if the DACF was able to produce any data, the Auditor General would have communicated.
When they wrote to the YEA, let's get it clear. When the Auditor General wrote to the YEA said on this matter, they will have to defer to the DACF.
Has the Auditor General cleared that transaction?
I cannot say yes or no.
But
I don't have those documents before me. But mind you, for us as a board, ourselves, we have our own reservations about the figure, the 45,000 people. So that's why we have said, let our monitors go down, management get to the ground and do a head count of those under the sanitation model. If there are 45,000 people working under it, so be it. But I also do know that your ACE investigative journalist has done some good work and even doing some headcount in some areas. That is also a bit inconsistent with some numbers and figures quoted by Zoomlion within the JIDA trial or investigation and another. But as I said, we don't want to speculate. Figures don't lie. Let our people bring us the figures. If it's 45,000, the man goes on skip. But if it's not 45,000, then it's about time that we also as a board will take steps to also reclaim any money that we have paid. Is that a contract
which subsists ad infinitum? That it's there?
No, not at all. But currently, as we speak, we have obligations.
Because the 400 million which is in contention, 440 million which is in contention. One of the issues raised was that there was actually no contract. The contract had terminated. The contract had expired but Zoomlion continued to provide the service. So they actually provided the service when there was no contract. You are a law student.
Yes, but first of all, let's also get it that you are going into matters of legalities.
No, but it's a matter of fact,
yes,
which is on record.
You see, there are quite some conflicting reports. In one instance, when the contract expired, Zoomlion per its conduct, because per the arrangement in that contract, you also did stipulate that if within a certain period, you also do not write to the one you have hired, be it Zoomlion, to notify them that we are no longer engaging your services. And you continue to pay them. By your conduct, you are believing that you are still working with that person.
But on this case, they didn't pay.
They paid.
What
the DACF. The DACF continued to pay Zoomlion.
So how did we? So there was no contract, and they kept working, and then we kept paying.
And we kept paying.
That's
so by our
question. Does that make sense?
Well,
to you?
yeah. But the point is that by our conduct, as a government at that time, as a nation, well, I don't think that was good governance.
Prudent management?
That is not prudent management, and I will agree with you. Because if you wanted to disengage, you should have been clear and explicit that at this point, we believe that we've had enough of it or want to open up for others to come in. But you, in the first instance, because in fact, there was even a cabinet memo to that effect. There was even a letter
the one
from,
raised by Haruna Idrisu.
Exactly.
On the basis of which the Auditor General was asked to look into this matter.
But the DACF continued to engage Zoomlion. And so for us, what we can only do, that we believe that this model must still run to next year. If there is any changes we can make, it will have to be next year.
Again, under the same module, the state pays to Zoomlion 500 Ghana cedis per person.
Yeah.
Zoomlion pays each person 100 cedis and retains 400 cedis as management fee. You lead the youth.
Yeah.
In your party, and you said that the youth heard you and voted for your party. For the young man in Bunkuruguyunyo or Adakulu or Palwogu or Delibuzong, if that young man hears that you preside over an institution which enters into a contract with a business person that takes 500 cedis from the state and pays him 100 cedis and keeps 400 cedis, can you look at him in the eye and say, vote for the MPP again?
Well, this is something we inherited. And I am determined, myself and my board, we are so much determined to reverse the status quo. Because for me, in this present day Ghana, for you to work a whole month and be paid 100 cedis, Malik, with the greatest of respect, I think it's worrying and unfortunate. However, you know, the YEA, we also employ people differently under the sanitation model. That's those even in the coastal sanitation zone. And we pay them 300 cedis, 350 cedis. And we even have a provident fund arrangement for them. So they have a backup when they even go to the model for 2 years.
Why is the YEA unable to manage these people yourself? Why do you have to give it to a contractor?
That has been a suggestion that has come on. Per our act, we are also permitted to also hire the services of a private agency or contract. So it's not out of place. However, our people should not be shortchanged when we even bring on board a private person. Because our scope is big, because managing all these modules, the act envisaged that it was also going to be a tedious exercise. In terms of the numerical strength of our staff and all, we can also outsource some of our modules for a management company to also manage it. But I think the argument that 100 cedis should still be maintained is not proper. And for me, I will feel bad as a youth leader and a young person chairing the board to also see that my colleagues still go through this and be paid 100 cedis. When on our own, we are paying our people to around 300 cedis also. 300.
There are those who say this is a perverse contract. Do you agree?
it's not up to me to say the contract was perverse or
but
wasn't perverse.
If you
but
are
I think
paying the contractor,
some of the provisions
if you are paying the
in the contract,
500 per person,
yes,
and the contractor is paying the people 100 cedis,
the contractor too has raised a very interesting argument,
which is
that ever since that contract was signed, its payment has never been reviewed. Inflation has come in, forex issues had come in, the prices of the things that they procure had come in. No, I'm not speaking for the contract. I'm only advancing an argument on the other side.
Let's agree with the contractor for a moment.
I may disagree, but that is what the contractor too
Let's
say.
agree with the contractor for a
But we need
moment.
to help manage this module well and get a better bargaining.
Sammy, let's agree with the contractor for a moment.
Okay.
That all of these changes have happened. What has also happened is that the 100 cedis has remained constant for the person, for the guy doing the work.
That's the point.
So when the contractor who is taking 400 cedis for management is complaining, the guy who is taking the 100 cedis
is also complaining.
All of these have remained constant. That the inflation has happened, that the fuel prices have gone up, that a lot of things have happened.
Exactly.
He remains. He keeps taking the 100 cedis.
And that is why this payment and the amount due to both the contractor and that of our beneficiary must be reviewed. It must be reviewed. It doesn't make.
When you say must be reviewed, what do you mean?
Well,
does the government have a policy to change this contract? Which something is perverse?
We can only review after 2 years per the YEA Act, and I want to believe next year will be.
When was the current contract signed?
I think last year or so. Last year or early this year, but I do. So
there was a signed contract.
Well,
so after the expiration of the 2013 contract, we subsequently signed one.
Yes, there was one 2013 to 2015. It's a 2-year thing. Then the 2015 to 2017 was renewed.
So if it's 2015 to 2017,
in fact, sorry, 2015 to 2017, because per the YEA Act. Because mind you, let's not confuse ourselves with events of the past. We can only stick to the provisions of this act for the purposes of our discussion.
So,
I am worried about this kind of imbalance, and likewise, many of our people on there.
Is the government going to do something about it?
I can assure you
what
that
is the government going to do?
What I can assure is that the NPP government will take a critical look at this sanitation model going forward, and that is a promise.
That's not a committed statement.
That is a committed statement.
You are the board chairman.
Yes. But I don't take decisions unilaterally. But it has come up at the board, these same arguments you have raised. And as a board, we also have issues of secrecy and confidentiality. But what I can tell you is that the board, just as we've taken some bold decisions within the past few weeks, expect us to take a very bold decision going into...
You can't state whether this contract will be cancelled.
Well, first of all, the contractor must prove to us why this contract must be renewed. That I can tell you. Because if the contract is not satisfying the interests of our beneficiaries, look, this job that they are in, there should be some kind of insurance policy. For all most of our modules, we have insurance policy. But for this one, there's no insurance policy. But sweeping in some bush areas comes with its own health implications.
And you pay the people 100 cedis a month.
Yeah, so it's a shame. But for some of the modules we have, we're paying them, I think, 350 or so. 300 or so, and we take 50 cedis separately for the purposes of to use for Provident Fund, and also 45 cedis for Provident Fund, 5 cedis for insurance, and then...
How long are you serving as board chair?
I pray and hope to serve as board chair for 4 years.
By the time you are ending, what would you want to leave behind as legacy?
I want to leave a YEA that, first of all, embarks on sound financial management. A YEA that is completely rid of endemic corruption. A YEA that positions itself as the foremost employment provider for our teeming youth. And a YEA where from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. you are working for the state of Ghana and for the youth of our country. And after 5 p.m. if you want to do your politics for the NPP or NDC, you are free to do that. When we went around as board, we did assure management and staff, whether NPP or NDC, that at the end of the day, you'll be judged by the content of your character and how you have worked within the setup, not by the colors that you came into the YEA with.
Yeah, you have just
you
have just stolen Martin Luther's statement and
maybe I paraphrased
and rephrased it for your purposes.
To Ken, to Dr. King Jr. And because I'm saying this because, you know, the YEA, you and I will agree that it became more or less a very partisan institution. But for me, I do not care which party you serve or vote for come 7 December 2020. What I do care is how you are able to perform to the admiration of the youth of Ghana and the state of Ghana.
Are you going for the national organizer of the NPP?
When nominations open, I'll take a serious consideration of it.
There have been publications in social media about some happenings between you and some lady. Would that hurt your chances?
Let the delegates decide.
Are you bothered about it?
Oh, not at all. Not
Did
at
you
all.
do it?
I mean, that's an interesting question. Of course, because obviously, you know, I've come out of it. And this matter may have been properly advised on it. I don't want to comment on this matter. I don't want to either further escalate it or further diminish its returns or whatsoever. It's not a matter I even want to even comment on it or even talk about it. But whether it will hurt my chances or not, I'm sure NPP delegates will decide.
Are you happy with government's performance so far?
I knew Nana Akufo-Addo and the NPP will perform. But I can confidently tell you that Nana Addo has performed beyond my wild expectations.
What so far has happened that you are uncomfortable with the delivery of government?
Well, so far I think I'm okay, and I think that the government is moving very fast in terms of delivering on our promises. Within a year, the kind of innovations and the things that has come up, it's amazing. For instance, digital address system was today launched. You've had free senior high school in September rolling. You've had one district, one factory being launched somewhere in the Afutu area, the hometown of Professor Mills. The president this afternoon also launched the one district, one warehouse as part of his agric policy and vision. When Nana Addo is supported, I'm sure within 2 years, he will effectively implement maybe everything in the NPP manifesto. And I'm sure he will give politicians the credibility again. Because, you know, it got to a point that you go out to campaign and the easiest slogan people use is, oh, politicians are the same. They are liars. You are branded as liars. This man is lifting the integrity.
You believe Nana Addo will change that?
Nana Addo has already changed it.
On that note, I have to say a very, very big thank you.
Thank you.
For coming on Upfront today. It's been wonderful. Here's my guest, Sammy Awuku, is a board chairman of the Youth Employment Agency. He's been my guest on Upfront. God willing, we will bring you another exciting discussion on this show. Until then, my name is Malik Abbas Dabo. Sitting for Raymond Aqua. Bye-bye.